My name is Anna. I'm 27. Being a mother is something I've always looked forward to. But I can't believe that what seemed so wonderful became the reason of the misfortunes that struck my life. The fetus I used to carry was the child of a devil. Everything started about 2 years ago when my husband, Tony, and I just moved into a new home. That was something I had been waiting for a long time because when we were newly married, we were in desperate financial straits. I didn't have a stable job, and my husband just lost his job back then. Tony repeatedly delayed having a kid for fear that we couldn't afford to take good care of the child. I totally agreed with his thought. So Tony and I set a goal. When we had enough money to buy a house ourselves, we would consider having kids. After many years of grinding money diligently, we had finally achieved our plan. We bought a new house, located in the suburbs, far away from the city center. We bought it at a bargain price. I was surprised when the former owner agreed to sell it so quickly. It was perfectly suited to welcome a new member of our family. Well, I was already in my 3rd month of pregnancy. Having moved into our new house not for long, my husband already had to leave for a long-term business trip. He had been very busy. His work always swept him away, and there was not much time for us to spend with each other. I didn't like it at all, but I understood that my husband was working hard to provide for us. But when I was alone in the house, I felt quite bored, so I decided to take advantage of my free time to get to know my new neighbors. I was pregnant and alone. My husband was constantly absent from home. So, getting to know some nice neighbors would be better for me. I made some very eye-catching cake baskets to please everyone in the neighborhood. I was sure they would have a fondness for me, but everything didn't go exactly as I planned. Every time I stood on someone's doorstep and introduced myself as their new neighbor and told them about the house I just moved into, their attitude changed abruptly. The smile on their lips disappeared. Their faces were filled with horror as if they saw ghosts. Then they slammed the door in front of me rudely. What the heck was going on with them? I was surprised by those strange reactions. I felt lost and confused until I went to the house of an old neighbor, Avon. Finally, my questions were cleared up. Just like the previous neighbors, Miss Avon was about to shut me out when she found out about the house I had just moved in. However, seeing my depressed face, she softened and decided to share with me the bizarre rumors about the house I was living in. Back then, there was an elderly woman named Clement who lived in that house. She was rumored to be a satanic witch. Clement was so freaky. She was always gloomy and almost never left her house. It was also rumored that she was practicing the rehabilitation of Satan in her house. Clement once had a son, but when he was 3 years old, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. Up until then, people still didn't know where that child was, nor if he was alive or dead. Although there was no evidence, people believed that Clement killed his son to summon the devil. Later, when Clement became too old and weak, she was taken to a nursing home. But every night, her neighbors still heard the terrifying cry of children from her house. It might have been the spirit of the devil that haunted the house. Miss Avon advised me to be careful. That house was not safe. I never truly believed in ghost stories, but Miss Avon's story creeped me out. A few days after, my husband returned from the business trip, and I rushed to tell him what I had learned about this house. I expressed my fear and concerns because I was pregnant and always had to stay home alone. If something went wrong, I wouldn't be able to handle it. My husband sat quietly for a while and said that he would take a long leave from work to stay home with me. He wanted me to be reassured. Tony took good care of me. He even took charge of cooking because he wanted me to rest. Having Tony with me made me feel so much happier. But that happiness didn't last long because only a short time later, bizarre phenomena began to occur in our house. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I was awakened by strange sounds. It was like a child's choking cry. I didn't know where it came from, but it constantly echoed around the house. Not only that, sometimes when I was alone, I saw a black cat appear in front of the window. He just stared at me, then disappeared suddenly. But what made me wonder most of the time was that the doll I bought for my soon to be born child constantly moved around the house. Every time I put it in the closet, I saw it somewhere else. It could be the living room, the kitchen, the garage, or even the front porch. Everything that happened put me in stress and exhaustion. Besides, my health was getting worse. I felt like my body was being drained. My weight also dropped quite a lot. It was horrible for a pregnant woman. My husband was extremely worried. If that situation went on, it would be very dangerous. "Let's go see a psychic. Maybe they can help us," Tony suggested, and I immediately agreed. I need to put an end to this. The next day, he drove me to a famous psychic's house. He reassured me that she was very skilled and trustworthy. The woman's house looked very gloomy. The windows were covered with curtains so nobody could see anything inside. Welcoming us was a very oddly dressed woman. She led us inside her house and signaled for me to sit down on the chair. One of her hands grabbed mine tightly, and the other repeatedly jotted down straight signs on a red sheet. Then she frantically told me that there was a demon in our house. It was summoned long ago and was desperately in need of a fetus so it could take over their body. And the body of my soon-to-be-born child was exactly what it needed for the demon to achieve its goal. It was draining my life force energy to grow stronger. If this situation continued, it would be a death sentence, for me and my child's body would become the shell of the devil. My husband and I were shocked to hear that. I was so terrified that my whole body trembled uncontrollably. She advised us not to run away because that only made the situation worse. We needed to confront that demon. She gave me a lot of jars of frankincense essential oil and told me to smell it every day. The smell of frankincense would help me purify the house and drive the devil out of my body. As soon as I got home, I did everything she said. My house was filled with the smell of frankincense and full of protection spells. However, that horrible nightmare was not over. Strange phenomenon still happened all the time, and my health was getting worse. I fell into depression and panic. Why didn't her methods work? How to get rid of that demon? Was there anything else I didn't know? After a long time, I finally found the answers to those questions, but the price was not cheap at all. If you want to know, please listen to the following part of my story in the next video.